The 2011 Ramachotty medalist, Professor Michael Parker, was always destined for great achievements in science.
Yes, my career aspirations started at high school, actually, where I definitely wanted to do medical research, and I got into a chemistry degree at the Australian National University in Canberra.
For more than 30 years, the focus of Professor Parker's work has been discovering and defining the 3D shape of proteins which are involved in disease processes.
The first part of my career was very interested in looking at the structures of proteins and trying to understand how they work. I'd say the last 5 or 10 years has been very focused on developing drugs based on our structures, with the hope that we can get molecules into clinical trials and out into the clinic.
Once the structure and role of a protein in disease is known, Professor Parker and his team figure out ways of stopping or changing the disease-causing action of these proteins. This approach potentially impacts on all diseases.
And our focus has been on major disease areas. So firstly, infection, particularly bacterial, so with a possibility of developing antibiotics, viruses, so developing antivirals. Second major area has been cancer, and finally there's our interest in neurobiology, particularly Alzheimer's disease, where we think we're about to make some very big breakthroughs in understanding how the key protein works in that disease.
One of Professor Parker's recent world-renowned breakthroughs was the discovery of a protein called GM-CSF receptor, which plays a major role in the proliferation of blood cells in leukemia.
So the structure of this protein showed us how it works, how it signals. It also showed straight away the sorts of drugs we could actually develop to try and stop it.
Drug development takes time. Professor Parker has been collaborating with a US pharmaceutical company to develop a cancer drug, which is currently being trialled in humans. He first identified the protein structure way back in 1992.
Typically takes 15 years, and the academics tend to be at the beginning of that process. The other thing I should say is the average cost now of developing a drug is now $1.5 billion, and that's US dollars. So certainly the importance of the work I do and what drives us is the fact that we'll have an impact on health.
Professor Parker has received Ramachotty grants in 2000, 2004 and 2007, all of which have played an integral part in his discoveries.
And each was for a piece of equipment that's been absolutely essential for all our protein crystallography work. The first Ramachotty grant I got, which was this piece of instrument to make proteins from cells, has been very important because we work on up to 50 projects and it's been used in nearly all the projects, and so it's had a dramatic influence on our productivity over the last decade.
And according to Professor Parker, the equipment grants awarded by the Ramachotty Foundations over the last 40 years have played a critical role in supporting the Australian biomedical research community.
Philanthropy is extremely important to medical research in Australia, and we can't do without it. It's difficult to get funding for equipment in Australia, so we really depend on philanthropy, and indeed my lab was set up based on philanthropic money to get the basic instruments, so absolutely essential.
Professor Parker is an incredibly humble recipient of the 2011 medal.
Elated, a bit confused, very, very surprised. I've got quite a few awards, but this is the first one, which is for medical research, and that's very important to me and to my team because our focus is on medical research. I do work very long hours, and the motivation to do that is that we really think we can make a difference with drug discovery. The really big aim would be to see molecules out in the clinic, that we were there at the beginning trying to design these molecules. Yes, I'm confident we will. I'll retire once we do.